When gods laugh at mortals, Captain Helena Vasquez stood at the observation deck of the Terran diplomatic vessel, watching the massive ring-shaped station that housed the Galactic Senate. The structure stretched across space like a metallic crown, its surface gleaming with lights from 1,000 different civilizations. Yet despite its grandeur, Elena felt only cold dread in her stomach. The laughter still echoed in her mind. Not the warm laughter of friends sharing a joke, but the cruel, dismissive laughter of beings who viewed humanity as nothing more than amusing primitives. She replayed the scene from the Senate chamber over and over, each memory a fresh wound to her pride. Ambassador David Park had stood before the assembled representatives of 47 different species, pleading for humanity's inclusion in the Galactic Defense Compact. His voice had been steady, his arguments logical, his presentation flawless. But when he finished, the response was immediate and devastating. The Hegemony Alliance representative, a tall crystalline being named Zephyros, had actually giggled. The sound was like breaking glass, sharp and cutting. "Honored colleagues," Zephyros had said, his voice carrying easily through the vast chamber, "surely we cannot seriously consider granting advanced status to a species that still relies on chemical propulsion and kinetic weapons." The chamber had erupted in what could only be described as cosmic mockery. Species that had mastered faster than light travel, energy manipulation, and consciousness transfer found humanity's military technology laughably primitive. The Kroner Empire's representative, a massive insectoid creature with 4 arms and compound eyes, had clicked his mandibles in what Elena later learned was their equivalent of scornful laughter. "Their most advanced weapon," the Kroner had buzzed, "fires metal projectiles." Metal projectiles. "We mastered plasma weaponry before. Your son was born, humans." That was when Elena had quietly left the chamber. She couldn't bear to watch Ambassador Park's face as rejection after rejection poured down upon him. Humanity had spent decades preparing for this moment, gathering allies, proving their worth through small conflicts and peacekeeping missions. All of it meant nothing to beings who viewed them as barely evolved apes playing with sticks and stones. Back in her quarters aboard the diplomatic vessel, Elena accessed her secure communications array. The message she sent was brief and coded, but its implications were staggering. "Project Nightfall is authorized. The children have been laughed at long enough. 3 sectors away, on a hidden asteroid base in the Kuiper Belt, General Marcus." Chun received Elena's transmission. The weathered military commander stood in the center of a facility that officially didn't exist, surrounded by technology that would have made the Galactic Senate's mocking laughter die in their throats. Quantum Hammer Project had begun 15 years earlier, born from humanity's frustration with their technological limitations. If the galaxy insisted on measuring worth by weapon sophistication, then humanity would build something that would redefine the concept entirely. Dr. Sarah Kim, the project's lead scientist, stood beside a massive cylindrical structure that seemed to bend light around itself. The weapon didn't look impressive by galactic standards. No glowing energy conduits, no crystalline matrices, no exotic matter containment fields. It looked almost primitive, constructed from heavy metals and ceramic composites that any spacefaring civilization would consider obsolete. But appearances could be deceiving. "General," Dr. Kim said, her voice barely containing her excitement, "the quantum tunneling array is fully calibrated. We can create a dimensional collapse anywhere within a 50 light-year radius." Chun nodded grimly. The quantum hammer didn't work like conventional weapons. It didn't fire projectiles or energy beams. Instead, it created microscopic tunnels through the quantum foam that underlaid reality itself. These tunnels could be opened at any point in space, creating instantaneous collapse zones where matter simply ceased to exist. The theory was elegant in its simplicity. Every particle in the universe existed in multiple quantum states simultaneously until observed or measured. The quantum hammer forced specific quantum states to collapse in predetermined ways, essentially editing matter out of existence at the subatomic level. "Sir," an aide approached with a data tablet, "we're receiving reports from our deep space monitoring stations. A Kroner battle fleet has entered the outer system. 200 vessels, including their flagship, the Devourer of Worlds." Chun's expression didn't change. He had been expecting this. The Kroner Empire had been looking for an excuse to demonstrate their superiority over humanity, and the Senate's rejection had provided the perfect opportunity. It would sweep into the Sol system, demand submission, and use Earth as an example to other primitive species. "How long until they reach Earth?" Chun asked. 47 hours at their current speed, sir." Chun turned to Dr. Kim. "Doctor, I need to know, will it work?" Sarah Kim had spent her entire adult life on this project. She had sacrificed relationships, career opportunities, and her health to create something that existed at the very edge of theoretical possibility. Her calculations had been checked and rechecked by the finest minds humanity could produce. But theory and practice were two very different things. "General," she said finally, "the mathematics are sound. The quantum mechanics work. But we've never tested it on anything larger than a small asteroid. Then we're about to field test it on the most powerful warship in the known galaxy," Chun replied. "Prepare for firing sequence." Meanwhile, aboard the Kroner flagship Devourer of Worlds, Supreme Commander Vathek surveyed the approaching blue-green world through his vessel's viewports. Earth hung in space like a jewel, beautiful and defensible. The humans had built impressive orbital installations and possessed a substantial fleet, but nothing that could threaten a true galactic power. Vathek's forearms gestured in satisfaction as he reviewed the tactical displays. His fleet was the most powerful military force ever assembled by the Kroner Empire. Each vessel was armed with plasma cannons capable of glassing continents, antimatter torpedoes that could crack moons, and defensive shields that could repel any known weapon. The Supreme Commander had personally led the campaign to acquire 17 different worlds for the Empire. Each conquest had followed the same pattern. Arrive with overwhelming force, demand surrender, crush any resistance with devastating efficiency. He expected Earth to be no different. "Commander," his tactical officer buzzed, "the humans are attempting to establish communication." "Ignore them," Vathek clicked dismissively. "They will learn to communicate properly after their surrender." On Earth, the emergency session of the Unified Defense Council was reaching its conclusion. Representatives from every nation and colony sat around a circular table deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, their faces grim as they reviewed the approaching threat. Elena Vasquez, having returned from the diplomatic mission, presented the final intelligence reports. "The Kroner fleet outguns our entire navy by a factor of 30 to 1. Their flagship alone mounts more firepower than our combined orbital defense platforms." President Martinez, the elected leader of the Terran Federation, looked around the table. "Options?" "We have one," said General Chun, speaking via secure link from the Kuiper Belt facility. "But it's never been tested under combat conditions, and if it fails, we'll have revealed our hand for nothing." "And if it succeeds?" "If it succeeds, Mr. President, the galaxy will never laugh at humanity again." The vote was unanimous. As the Kroner fleet approached Earth's outer defensive perimeter, Supreme Commander Vathek prepared to deliver his ultimatum. The humans had deployed their entire fleet to meet him, impressive by primitive standards, but ultimately futile. Their largest vessels were dwarfed by his escort cruisers. "This is Supreme Commander Vathek of the Kroner Empire," he broadcast. "On all frequencies, humans of Earth, you will surrender unconditionally and submit to Imperial rule. You have 1 hour to respond with your acceptance." The response came not in words, but in physics, not 50 light years away. Dr. Sarah Kim placed her hand on the activation switch of the quantum hammer. The weapon's power core, drawing energy from the quantum vacuum itself, hummed with barely contained force. Around her, every monitor in the facility displayed the same target: the Kroner flagship devourer of worlds. Quantum tunnel established, she announced. Dimensional coordinates locked. Collapse field charging. General Chun stood at the command station, his hand hovering over the final authorization key. In that moment, he thought about every species that had dismissed humanity as primitive, every alien diplomat who had sneered at their crude technology, every empire that viewed Earth as nothing more than a curiosity. Asterisk. Fire, he said. The quantum hammer didn't make a sound when it fired. There was no visible beam, no energy discharge, no dramatic flash of light. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, in the space around Earth, the Kroner flagship devourer of worlds simply ceased to exist, not destroyed, erased. The massive vessel, 3 kilometers long and bristling with weapons, vanished from reality as if it had never been built. Where it had hung in space moments before, there was nothing but empty vacuum. The silence that followed was deafening. Asterisk. When mortals answer gods, the disappearance of the devourer of worlds sent shockwaves through the Kroner fleet that had nothing to do with physics. One moment their flagship had been there, a massive presence on every sensor array, its commanders issuing orders, its weapons charging for the coming battle. The next moment, their instruments showed only empty space where 2,000 crew members and the pride of their navy had existed. Sub-Commander Krotok, now the senior officer of the remaining fleet, stared at his tactical display in disbelief. His compound eyes moved frantically across the readouts, searching for any explanation. Ship malfunction? Cloaking device? Some unknown form of attack? Commander, his sensor operator buzzed in distress. There's no debris field, no energy signature, no quantum residue. It's as if the flagship never existed. Kreltak's mandibles clicked nervously. In all his years of military service, he had never encountered anything like this. The Kroner Empire had faced many enemies, weapons ranging from plasma artillery to temporal distortion fields, but nothing that could make a capital ship simply vanish. All ships, he broadcast to the fleet, maintain defensive positions. Scan for any unusual energy signatures or weapon systems. But their scans revealed nothing. Earth's defensive fleet maintained its position, showing no signs of having fired any weapons. The planet's orbital installations remained passive. Whatever had destroyed the devourer of worlds had left no trace of its existence. In the depths of space, the message spread with the speed of quantum communication. Every major power in the galaxy received the same report. The Kroner Empire's most powerful warship had been eliminated by an unknown human weapon. The response was immediate and far-reaching. On the crystalline homeworld of the Hegemony Alliance, Zephyros reviewed the tactical data with growing unease. The being who had mocked humanity's primitive weapons now faced the reality that those same humans had developed something beyond his understanding. Analysis? He inquired of his technical staff. Impossible to determine, Excellence, came the reply. The energy signature is unlike anything in our databases. It appears to involve manipulation of quantum mechanics at a macroscopic level. Zephyros felt something he hadn't experienced in centuries: fear. If humanity possessed weapons that could eliminate capital ships without trace, what did that mean for the established galactic order? Back on Earth, President Martinez addressed the planet from the Emergency Command Center. His words were carried to every human settlement, from the domed cities of Mars to the mining stations of the asteroid belt. Citizens of humanity, he began, today we have shown the galaxy that we are not the primitive species they believed us to be. We have defended our home against overwhelming odds, and we have done so using human ingenuity and determination. But, even as the president spoke, Elena Vasquez was coordinating humanity's response to the aftermath. The quantum hammer had worked perfectly, but its success created new problems. Every intelligence agency in the galaxy would now be focused on discovering how humans had achieved the impossible. "General Chun," she said over the secure link, "we need to assume they'll send infiltrators, assassins, maybe entire strike teams to eliminate the project leadership." Chun nodded grimly. "Already in motion. Dr. Kim and the core research team are being relocated to secure facilities. The quantum hammer itself is being moved to a new location." But they were already too late. The Shadow Consortium had been monitoring galactic affairs for millennia, operating from hidden bases scattered across dark matter clouds and forgotten star systems. They were the self-appointed guardians of cosmic balance, intervening only when the stability of civilizations was threatened. Humanity's demonstration had triggered every alarm in their ancient monitoring systems. "The humans have accessed quantum manipulation technology," reported Nexus Prime, the consortium's primary intelligence entity. "This represents a fundamental shift in galactic power dynamics." The consortium's response was swift and merciless. Within hours of the Devourer's destruction, sleeper agents throughout human space received activation codes. Scientists began disappearing from their laboratories. Military officers died in apparent accidents. Research facilities suffered mysterious system failures. Dr. Sarah Kim was working late in her temporary laboratory when the attack came. The assassin moved like liquid shadow, bypassing every security system with technology that made human defenses seem like paper walls. Only Kim's quantum awareness field, a prototype sensor system she had developed, gave her enough warning to survive the first strike. She dove behind a bank of computers as energy bolts carved through the air where she had been standing. The assassin was humanoid, but clearly not human, its movements too fluid, its reactions too fast. "Dr. Kim," the creature spoke in perfect English, "your research threatens galactic stability. Surrender the quantum manipulation data and your death will be swift." Instead of surrendering, Kim activated the laboratory's emergency systems. Blast doors sealed the facility as she crawled toward the quantum transmitter. If she was going to die, she would at least ensure that her work survived. The assassin moved to intercept her, but Kim had one advantage. She understood quantum mechanics better than almost anyone alive. As the creature lunged, she activated a localized quantum field disruptor. The assassin's exotic matter technology failed catastrophically, reducing the being to component atoms. Across human space, similar battles were being fought. The Shadow Consortium had revealed itself through its attacks, and humanity now faced an enemy that had toppled civilizations before. Earth's sun was born. Elena Vasquez received the reports from her command center beneath the Pacific Ocean. 17. Researchers dead or missing. 3 facilities destroyed. The Mars installation compromised and abandoned. Humanity was under attack by forces they didn't understand, using technology they couldn't counter. "Captain," her communications officer reported, "we're receiving a transmission from unknown sources. It's coming from outside the galaxy." The message, when it finally decoded, was simple and terrifying. Species designation: human. You have disrupted cosmic equilibrium. Cease quantum manipulation technology or face sterilization. This is your only warning. Signed, the Architects. Elena stared at the message, feeling the weight of cosmic forces beyond human comprehension. The Architects were legends even among the ancient species beings who had supposedly guided galactic evolution for millions of years, pruning species that grew too dangerous, maintaining the balance between order and chaos. "Ma'am," her tactical officer interrupted, we're detecting massive gravitational anomalies at the edge of the system. Something's coming. Something big. The architect's judgment ship materialized from folded space like a geometric nightmare. It was impossibly large, its surface covered in patterns that hurt to look at directly. As it moved toward Earth, reality seemed to bend around it, space-time itself warping under the influence of technologies that predated human civilization by eons. But humanity had one advantage that their enemies had overlooked: the stubborn refusal to surrender, even when faced with impossible odds. Asterisk. General Chun, now operating from a hidden facility in the asteroid belt, made a decision that would either save humanity or destroy them all. "Dr. Kim," he transmitted, "can we use Earth's core as a quantum resonance chamber?" Kim, still recovering from her assassin encounter, ran the calculations in her head. Using an entire planet as a weapon was theoretically possible, but the risks were staggering. "General, if we tap directly into Earth's molten core, we could create a quantum field large enough to affect that ship. But if we miscalculate, we could destabilize the planet's magnetic field, or worse. Define worse. We could turn Earth into a quantum singularity, a black hole." Elena Vasquez, listening to the exchange, felt the weight of species survival on her shoulders. Around her, the command staff waited for orders. Above them, an alien judgment ship approached with the power to sterilize planets. "Do it," she said. Final battle for humanity's future began not with ships and weapons, but with mathematics and quantum mechanics. Deep beneath Earth's surface, massive drilling platforms pushed through the mantle toward the planet's core. The heat was beyond imagination, the pressure sufficient to crush mountains. But human engineering had learned to work in impossible conditions. As the architect's ship entered Earth's orbit, humanity fired its most desperate shot. Not the quantum hammer this time, but Earth itself transformed into a weapon of cosmic proportions. The planet's magnetic field became a quantum lens, focusing forces that could rewrite the laws of physics in local space. The architects, for all their ancient wisdom, had never encountered a species willing to risk their homeworld to prove a point. Their judgment ship, built to withstand the death of stars, found itself caught in a quantum storm that unraveled its exotic matter hull at the molecular level, but the cost was enormous. The quantum backlash destabilized Luna's orbit, sending Earth's moon spiraling slowly outward. 3 of humanity's greatest scientists, including Dr. Kim, died maintaining the quantum resonance field. The planet's rotation slowed by 6 minutes, changing weather patterns that would take decades to stabilize. Yet humanity survived. More than survived, they had earned their place through fire and sacrifice. In the aftermath, as rescue ships searched for survivors and engineers worked to repair the damage, Elena Vasquez stood on the observation deck of the rebuilt orbital station. The stars looked different now, not because their light had changed, but because humanity's place among them had been permanently altered. The galaxy no longer laughed at human weapons. They feared them, and in that fear, Elena knew, lay the seeds of either humanity's greatest triumph or its ultimate destruction. The balance of power had shifted, but power without wisdom was the path to becoming the very thing they had fought against. The quantum hammer had given humanity a seat at the galactic table. Now they had to prove they deserved it. Asterisk.